Well, I guess it finally happened. Portland has instructed people not to call 911 unless they're at risk of death, as woke Democrat-run city struggles to cope with slew of ODs. If businesses are shutting down, people are fleeing the city, and now the public safety commissioner is like, just don't call 911. Sorry, unless you're going to die. So now if you're getting robbed, if your house is getting broken into, they're going to be like, sir, what's happening? Quick, help. Someone's breaking into my house. Well, are you dying? No. Okay, well, call us back if you do. It's the funny thing, not to call unless you're at risk of death. How do you define that? Are you saying like that if someone's committing a crime against someone else, but you're not sure if there's a risk of death, you don't call? Dude, there's always a risk of death in these crimes. If someone like breaks their leg or something, you call 911, help, I broke my leg, we need an ambulance, ASAP, it's bad, it's a femoral break or something. You get an ambulance. You call 911, it's an emergency. Well, can you die from it? I guess technically if I hit my femoral artery or whatever. In what circumstance would anybody need to call 911 where there is no risk of death, right? That's why it's kind of like the statement is meaningless. But the point is, this is what I'm getting at. They're basically saying, just call us a little bit less. You're on your own. Any instance where you need to call an emergency line, it's because death is on the line, right? Here's the story. Portland's public safety commissioner has told people not to call 911 unless they're at risk of death. Commissioner Renee Gonzalez told locals that its emergency service hotline was overwhelmed with people calling about members of the public suffering fentanyl overdoses. Oregon decriminalized hard drug use 3 years ago. Hey, it's called opportunity. It only made things worse. My attitude towards this stuff is typically that it should be legal, but it should be in controlled environments. So my position as of today, yes, I think my positions change quite a bit when we realize what's going on with this stuff as crime gets worse, is basically you can do it legally. You can do it legally, but we're going to put you in a room. We're going to monitor you. We're going to put restrictions on you. And if you're doing it outside, if you're doing it anywhere else, you're going to get arrested and charged. You have to have certain work requirements. It has to be that we are getting you off the drug and not giving you a free place to go do it. So it's not about decriminalizing it. It's about the penalty for criminal use being different from jail. We want people off fentanyl. But anyway, people are ODing. As a result, he urged people to only call 911 in a life or death emergency. As it was revealed, paramedics had been called to deal with 8 suspected fentanyl overdoses in the city's once Tony Pearl district. Well, duh. If someone's overdosing, they're going to die. Portland's neighborhoods have been overrun with crime, homelessness, drugs since the pandemic. And despite pouring funds into relief initiatives, little change is occurring on the streets of the city. Why? It's a cultural problem. There is no monetary solution to a systemic, social, civilizational problem. Commissioner Renee Gonzalez wrote on X, our 911 system is getting hammered this morning with a multiple person incident, multiple overdoses in Northwest Park blocks. Jeez, man. Your city has been gutted and destroyed, not just by your politicians, but because of these delicate, fat, liberal sensibilities. Dude, it reminds me of that scene. I love that scene in Watchmen. You're not supposed to look up to Rorschach because he's a nasty dude. He's a moral absolutist. But a lot of people are getting fed up, man. So who was it? Was it Alan Moore who did Watchmen, I think? And a lot of people were actually celebrating the character Rorschach. Many of you may be saying, I don't know what you're talking about, Tim. Let me explain. In the movie/comic, graphic novel for those that are true diehards, Rorschach is a vigilante who wears a mask that looks like a Rorschach painting. It's like, the ink blot, right? And there are 2 prominent scenes. The first is when he decides, when he discovers the true degree, like when he breaks the limit, where he decides to kill people. And it's because he discovers a man who kidnapped a little girl and did horrible things. And so he just snaps. Then there's the scene where he gets arrested because being a vigilante is illegal, but he kills this child abuser in the movie. And then there's a scene where he's sitting with this psychologist in prison, and he's like, I don't like you, your fat liberal sensibilities. And so many people cheer this guy on. Why? I don't think he's a guy you want to emulate, really. But there is something about people getting tired of these weak, effeminate individuals who are allowing our cities of this once great nation, of a great nation. I still think America is the best, despite all of its problems, but they are allowing it to decay. And it's because of this stupidity. There should be no tolerance. See, here's what happens. Somebody's addicted and it sucks. They're afflicted. And so they get locked in prison. That ain't helping. The left then comes out and says, we have to decriminalize this drug use. Now you've got people in open air drug markets all over the streets doing crazy drugs and dying. No, it's not about complete decriminalization. It's about altering the way by which we enforce these things. And more importantly, building a better culture, teaching our kids, being more selfless and having responsibilities. Here's the first thing you can do. Hey, you're not allowed to do drugs in public, man. You're not allowed to do drugs in public. And if we find out that you have become an addict, then we intervene and y'all get a 5150 because you're going to kill yourself. Involuntarily institutionalized. That's right. So we don't lock you in jail. You don't get criminal charges. You go to a judge and you say, we accuse this individual of doing these drugs. There will be a hearing where you have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt where the individual is in fact a repeat drug user. Should be fairly obvious for most. This due process beyond a reasonable doubt system will prevent abuse of the system. Not perfect, but the best of our abilities. And then someone will be asked, are you doing heroin and abusing fentanyl and all these things? And they say, yes, I am. They say, okay, you are being institutionalized. We set legislation. We say, here are the parameters of how long a person can be detained. It should be something like, once you are off for 6 months, then you are free to go. Or it should be like work release kind of things. You once you are found via the system to be an addict of these hard drugs, then what we do is we say, okay, we are going to monitor and drug test you. And they do this a lot. This actually, but I'm saying we have to normalize this, not that. Say, okay, you go to work, you live your life, you do your things. We will help you. But if you test positive, you will be incarcerated, not in jail, at an institution for rehabilitation, which would solve so much of these problems. Getting clean by force. I don't think the solution is just to say anybody can do any drug anywhere they want. There are arguments that like Portugal and some places have done this and it's worked out, but it's not a guarantee. Anything but. And right now, these strategies of just letting people do drugs wherever is not solving the problem. I don't think it is just decriminalization, though. I do think there's an argument to be made for absolute decriminalization and just let people do their drugs. The issue is our culture is sick and the police are not enforcing anything. That's the problem. And this is what you'll end up with. Welcome to Philly. Appalling moment, dirt bike rider goon jumps on young mom's car with her kids inside and smashes its back windshield during latest illegal street takeover in crime-ravaged Dem City. That's crazy. The dude jumps in the back of her car for no reason, and then he gets into it with her. Like he headbutts her with the helmet. These people are nuts, man. Smashing out the back of her car. All these people getting their dirt bikes and ATVs, and they're riding around in a street takeover, and the cops can do nothing. This is social order breakdown. I'm telling you, these people don't fear law enforcement. And it starts small, but it works its way up. You get the naked bike ride in New York, in Chicago. All these people get buck naked and they ride around. They don't care. You get pride events. You had in Santa Monica, or no, was it West Hollywood? In basically Los Angeles. You had two men performing a sexual activity on each other in public. Now wait, there's more than one instance. And I think the one in West Hollywood was the kink display where the guy's getting spanked with whips in front of families and children. Bad. Should be illegal. It is illegal and should be enforced. It won't be. Then you have one that is so gratuitous that it could actually have killed the person because it involved serious, let's just say the most disgusting things you can imagine were done in public on full display and filmed. In public. This is social order breakdown. And this is what you get. I got no sympathy for the people who live in these places. None. The only sympathy I have is, with exception, the people who are there because their kids are trapped. Because of legal issues, and they're saying, I can't leave my kids behind, right? Divorce and things like that. I get it, man. That's tough. And I have sympathy for these people who are staying within the burning building to save their kids. But there's a lot of people who choose to live in these places because it's too hard. All right, man. Well, look, man, if it's too hard for you, then enjoy the hardship. If you're telling me it is harder to move, it is easier to deal with open air drug markets, murders, and all that stuff, then okay, man, I get it. Take the easy route. Someone breaking into your house and assaulting your family and setting them on fire or something like that, like we saw in Baltimore. People make their decisions. They vote for what they want. And this is what cities are decaying into. So you got a problem? Well, I guess don't bother calling 911 because ain't nobody coming to save you. I'll leave it there. Next segment is coming up tonight at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimcastIRL. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.